Good morning. We'll be starting in a moment. For those that are on the phone, please make sure you speak clearly and loudly into the phone so it can be recorded properly. Thank you.
All right, call the meeting to order. This is the annual meeting of the Orland Park Joint Review Board. I will note at this time that, as Tad just pointed out, there's a few members that are attending electronically. Ed Lilo, would you call the rolls and attendance?
All right. Village of Orland Park.
Here.
School District 135.
Here.
Consolidated High School District 230.
Here.
Orland Fire Protection District. Orland Township. Moraine Valley Community College.
Here.
Cook County. Member at large.
Was he on? He was on, correct? Right. Okay, great, thanks. You must have been on mute. Yeah. It's okay. All right, the purpose of this annual meeting is twofold: to review the latest audit of the TIF Financial District, and to review the last 12 months of the village's activity with respect to any current TIF redevelopment project areas. The village has just received the 2022 audit on the Main Street TIF in November, which was our only TIF redevelopment project in existence for that period. So I'll be asking our finance director, Chris Frankenfield, to summarize the 22 TIF in a minute. During the last 12 months, the village has downsized, as you know, the Main Street TIF and created a new downtown TIF immediately adjacent to the Main Street TIF. We did that in a meeting a couple of months ago, and Steve Marciano will summarize that as well. We'll entertain questions and comments from the Joint Review Board members after each of the presentations. A reminder that it's not the purpose of this meeting to discuss potential TIF projects. If the village contemplates any additional TIF activity in 2025, this board will meet to review those potential projects, receive public comment on those new projects, and issue a report to the village board. Also, it has to go through some other hoops as well with public meetings. So it's not the purpose of this. And then after both of the staff presentations are made today, the public will have an opportunity to provide comment. Chris, can you start with, first, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the last JRB meeting. Anybody? No one's going to approve the minutes. We're not, okay, so I guess we'll wait to approve them for the next meeting. I'll make a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Do we have any comments on the minutes for the last meeting? Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Signify by saying no. Okay, the minutes are passed. Now we'd like to review the financial reports. Chris, if you could do that, please.
Thank you, Mayor. From a financial standpoint, nothing out of the ordinary occurred operationally during 2022. Total tax increment for the year just came under $1.4 million, while operational expenses amounted to approximately $2.3 million. The TIF has not contributed toward any major development expenditures since 2016, which was for streets and parking lot construction. And before that was a parking deck that was finalized in 2016. For the audit of the village financial statements, the village wrote off an accumulation interfund debt amounting to $47.2 million. The Main Street TIF triangle did not produce enough incremental funding necessary to pay for its own expenditures. Over the life of the TIF, the village had made many transfers from other funds to the TIF and debt service fund in order to meet payment obligations. These transfers had built up over the years, and this past November, as you mentioned, the village wrote off the debt based on the realization that the TIF will never be able to produce the incremental funding to settle its own debts. The village has officially started the 2023 audit engagement with Sickich, and we hope to have those financials available to you all this spring of 2025.
So, Chris, from this report, there's what, 5 years left, 4 years left on the TIF?
Yes,
And then from now, there's like 2, correct?
correct.
But in 2022, just like every year since I've been here, you have, we're generating 1.4 million in increment, but we're paying 2.3 plus in, it's actually more than that prior to 2021, correct?
Exactly.
In 2021 and 2022, I noticed in here there's some, there's a couple of bonds. Those were restructuring to a lower interest rate, correct?
Yes, those were refinancing the old existing bonds.
Right. And those old existing bonds, the reason we had to wait until that time was because they had covenants that precluded us from restructuring those, right?
Correct.
And we saved what, probably a couple $1 million in
A
total?
few thousand for each or so, yeah, so.
Well, I mean, in
Comes up
total
to
it was a couple million because it was like
Correct.
200 basis points, right?
Correct.
Right,
There
okay.
were about, there were about 6 or so bonds.
I guess the other key things here is nothing, obviously noted, and I think everyone here on the board knows there hasn't been any spending down there since 2016. So prior to my arrival, prior to most of, maybe not yours, Chief, but prior to just about everybody else's. So the 47.2 million, maybe just explain that just in a little more detail, just because the TIF fund balance shows minus 27 million, but as part of this audit, just so that everyone on the board knows, as part of this audit, our board asked them for a full accounting of everything that had been transferred in over the years, because it was very clear that we're not going to get any money back on it. So we wanted to make sure we had a very clean accounting of, hey, this is what we're burdened with the TIF to pay off in the future.
Correct, yeah, it's just been an accumulation, depending on, each year was a bit different from the next, but each year we had anywhere from home sales tax to the general fund funding the shortfalls of the TIF. So then it just accumulated, we recorded the shortfalls and the transfers, so where the TIF would end up owing the other funds in hopes that they would produce the increments to fund that. It never happened, and we don't anticipate it ever will. Yeah, so we've recorded that throughout the life.
And I have one more comment or statement, I guess. So the other thing is that the TIF is saddled with, or the village is saddled with from that TIF, is we're saddled with 2 things. We're saddled with a Metra, correct? We have to build a Metra parking lot. Is that correct? I see our engineer shaking his head, and that's what, about $4 million?
Approximately.
So that's not even included in the 47 million. That's just something we're going to have to incur in the future on this. And then additionally, we have to move utilities, correct, that were laid across properties?
Correct.
And that's costing us what?
It will be about $2.5 million.
So in total, 6.5 more million on top of the 47.2, so $53 million this project has saddled us with. Okay, got it. Any questions from the rest of the Joint Review Board on this? Sure. You need to go to the mic if you're going to do that.
First question I have, because I'm a little bit new to this process, but what was the reason for the delay on the financial report being released of 2 years?
Well, we've answered that. I don't know. We talked about it at the last board meeting and the board meeting before, so you should probably review those. But essentially, the 2021 audit was late. That wasn't delivered until December of 2023. The auditing firm was acquired in the middle of the audit and basically stopped working on it. And as you know, you're kind of in a trick bag when they're not doing it, and they've got all your financials, you're kind of stuck. So we fired them on the day after they provided the audit. We went out for a RFP immediately thereafter. It takes 90 days just to get that back, then you have to go through that, interview everybody. So I think we signed our thing with Sikich in May, correct?
Correct.
So we signed that in May. They started at the beginning of June. And in the RFP, we requested that they be done in 4 months with the first one in 2022, and in 2023 by the end of the year. The 2022 was about a month later than that. But given that it's a first audit, as you're well aware, those are not easy first audits. There's a lot more that they have to do. Plus, we had an ERP conversion as well, so we had data conversion stuff that we had to deal with. So 5 months to get that one done. It's a pretty good job from Sikich, and then they should have the next one done. They said March, second meeting of March for the board. Worst case scenario, hopefully sooner.
Okay. And the 24 audit, when is that expected to be completed?
Well, 24 isn't even over yet.
Okay, so your fiscal year doesn't run through June 30th
Yeah, our fiscal
like the
year
school
doesn't even
districts?
end for another couple of weeks. So 2024 will be on time.
Okay.
Would be our expectation.
We hope to have, to put a time frame, we're hoping August of 25 to have our 24 audit.
Right,
complete.
and so
But
there's,
as
right
soon
now, as you
23
know,
is done,
everybody's getting automatic extensions because of the shortage of auditors, so we expect that to be inside of that window without any problem, without any delay. And Sikich did a nice job on the last one. The previous firm, I can't say so much about on 2021 audit.
So you mentioned that $47.2 million has been written off by the village. On what financial reports, what year financial reports?
2022, on this one.
And so the village's financial reports are on the same schedule then as the TIF districts?
Yeah, this was done at the same time, it's just taken a month to get the meeting. Correct. So, because we have to notice it and all that, but this was approved, accepted the November 7th, whatever the first meeting was, November 4th meeting this year is when it was accepted.
Okay. The $1.7 million in fund balance that was left at the end of the year, was that a reserved or unreserved fund balance?
I think this,
I don't think it's reserved, it's just, the fund balance is just from the transfers. There's still payments that have to be made.
Payments on the bonds?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, the bonds are still out. That $47 million we still owe.
Okay, so what is the overall payment schedule for the bonds? What's the total payments that you have and how long will that
Well, it's
payment schedule last?
$47.2 million in debt that we owe in total. I think the bonds that are in the TIF district are 27 million are still, correct? They're pretty significant.
I think we're looking at 14.2
14.2? Okay.
for, yeah, bond issue, Geo bond 2021 B and C.
Yeah, but there's 2022s as well.
Correct. You're
So
right.
how much are those?
I don't have that on me at the moment.
Okay, so the repayment schedule on those is 20 years, 35 years, the 21 bonds?
I'm going from memory, but I think they're 20 years, but I mean, the village is going to be paying it out of their general fund because the TIF is going to be closed.
Okay, okay. So this TIF will no longer exist once the downtown Orland Park TIF is up and running?
No, as we, at the last meeting, when we created the new TIF, we basically shrunk this TIF down to what's existing in it, what is still, what is providing increment, which is 1.4 million in left, and basically shrunk that down. All the undeveloped land, which has a tax basis of 0 because the village owns it, is in the new TIF.
Okay.
So that new TIF is 23 years, but there's nothing, that new TIF is not burdened by any of this. So just this TIF, which obviously 1.4 million with a couple of years left on it is not going to pay that note off. So, so the village residents, unfortunately, we're all stuck with this.
So I can't remember right now. Does the new TIF abut the old TIF?
Huh?
Does the new TIF that you created earlier this year abut or?
Yes.
It does. Is there any intention to port money between those two TIFs?
No, as I just said, they're two separate TIFs. So the intention is for this TIF to close. That's why it was written off and it's in our general fund, is because the general fund is gonna pay for it from the village. The old TIF pays for whatever, or the new TIF is just gonna deal with the TIF that's in its own district. That's why we created this second district.
Okay. There were multiple accountants' letters from Sikich, like multiple versions of the accountants' verification letter that were received. I think Scott has a copy of the first one that was received. Then there was one that was, I believe, emailed out on December 3rd, and then a revised one on December 4th. Can you explain the differences in these letters?
I had attached, for one, the original one was actually the auditor's opinion, and that wasn't relevant to the TIF. So I had made an update, the revision with the correct compliance report.
Okay. The first letter that Scott received, and he has a copy of it here with him today, said that the audit was not conducted in accordance with the governmental accounting standards. And we can show it to you if you'd like, but can you explain that at all?
That's not what they reported to us on the board floor in the audit.
Do you have a copy of the letter that you can share with them, Scott?
The financial statements of the discretely presented component unit. I don't know what the component unit is here.
The component units are Stellwagen and Museum and the E911,
Ah, okay.
but beyond that,
So, those are the component units?
yes, and they're
Yeah, so
unrelated.
you need to speak up, what are the component units? Because it says in here, the component units were not in accordance with government accounting standards. So what are the component units?
Okay, that would be the Museum, Stellwagen, and E911.
Okay,
Joint review.
so that's our 911 fund, which is separate, and it's audited separately also. And the museum and Stellwagen, which have both been closed. They were, I don't know why they did this, but the previous board, way before me, created a 501c3 of those two things and intermingled them. And so basically, we cleaned all that up, and that no longer exists.
Got it.
So
So component units, the definition of component units does not include TIF
it
districts?
does not include the TIF district, no.
Okay.
It's just those three units.
And then I think we were also hoping to get a little bit more of an explanation of the expenditures from the TIF district. It looks like section 3.2B has some contracts that were listed, but also just expenditures in generally. What is being paid for currently out of the TIF district that's the subject of the financial report?
3.2B. Well, Commonwealth Edison would be for electricity. The SB Friedman Development Buyers would be the consulting to help shrink this TIF and do all of that work that we had done to bring this TIF down, bring it down to its new form.
So SB Friedman was engaged in 2022 to start planning for the new TIF that was created in '24?
Yes, they've been engaged with, because we've been dealing with this for a few years. We've been dealing with this since 2022. And then Walker Consultants, I don't know who that is. University of Chicago Medical Center, parking garage maintenance agreement. That's the maintenance agreement with the parking garage. And Day and Robert PC. Anytime you want to pipe in here from finance would be very helpful, because I don't deal with this stuff on a day-to-day basis. But Day and Robert PC is the legal, so I'm assuming that's legal associated with the TIF.
Yeah, and like you said, Commonwealth Edison, that's just
I already
utility
answered
bills.
that one. I think the question is about Day and Robert and Walker Consultants. Who are they? Scott Day? Is that Scott Day?
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, so that's a consultant, or that's a legal on the TIF.
Okay.
So he does the legal stuff he's done the legal stuff for the TIF. And Walker Consultants, I don't know who that is.
They're the parking consultant.
They're the parking?
Correct.
Okay. So that's what that was for.
Okay. And what does the parking consultant do?
They determined the parking, like what is the current demand and what would be the future demand for the district.
Okay. Are they engaged on an annual basis, or was this a one-time?
They were engaged for a task, and then their task is done, they're closed.
It's for the task of trying to figure out how we were going to handle the TIF with the potential new development and the extent and the time that that new development needed to determine what do we need to do with this entire TIF? What do we need to do with it? Well, what was determined is the best thing to do is to shrink it down into its current amount and then develop the new TIF, which was approved in the last meeting, which we just approved the minutes for.
Okay. And then section 32A, which is immediately preceding that, legal, audit, consulting, redevelopment advisors. I assume those are all the contractual services that we've just been talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, you mean the $6,100 and the $701 for the audit and the consulting here?
Okay.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, I would, it says on here, cost of studies, surveys, development of plans, specifications, implementation, administration of the redevelopment plan, staff and professional service costs.
And then on page 3 of section 32A, there's a cost-sharing agreement. Could you explain what the cost-sharing agreement is?
That's the $65,129 with University of Chicago Medical to cost share for the maintenance on the parking garage.
Okay, and you contract with a third party for that?
Yes, we do.
And then right below
Actually,
that.
we don't, they do. We reimburse them.
Oh, okay. And right below that, there's transfer to debt service fund. What is that transfer and what debt service fund?
Bond payments.
Bond payments? Is that transferred to the village's debt service fund?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, the village holds the debt, so we have to transfer it to pay the debt.
got it.
These aren't revenue bonds, they're general bonds.
Okay. And then what is the increment of the TIF district projected to be over its remaining life?
Well, it's 1.4 million a year, so 2 years left, 2.8 million to pay off that 47.2.
Right. We don't anticipate much change in that.
Yeah. There's no new development there, so that's to pay off the 47.2 plus the additional, you just heard the additional, what, $6.5 million of, that isn't even on this, that is liability that was, that the village is basically dealing with for the other part of the TIF.
Got it. Okay. Anything else that I've overlooked?
Yeah, a couple other questions. What is the rental income for 770?
That is for the UFC hospital that's there on the corner?
The hospital's paying?
Yes, they pay that rent every month.
Okay, and then one additional,
That's their land lease agreement that they have.
Correct.
okay, and then under the expenditure side, what is the additional $800,000 in expenses that are considered miscellaneous? Just kind of looking at that financial statement with the budget to actual for 22, you had budgeted somewhere around, right around 88 and came in at 852. It's about $800,000 difference.
What page are you on?
It was in the audit report, attachment K
Okay.
of it, audit report, page 110.
He's going to have to answer that, I don't know.
Could you repeat that question again, now that we found the right page?
Yes, so on the schedule that you have for revenue versus expenditures on the annual basis, if you look under miscellaneous expenditures, what is the overage of the 800,000 from budget to actual?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd have to do some research and get back. Is that an option?
So you have to speak up, so you don't have that in front of you, so you'll have to go
Yeah.
back and get.
I'll have to do some research and get back to the group.
No other questions for me.
Any other questions? All right, Steve, do you want to give an update on the new TIF district, which, I mean, we're only, what, 2 months in? You need to move closer to your mic, both of you guys. We got to be able to hear you.
Got to turn it on. There we go. That better? So just for 2024, the Plan Commission recommended for approval and the village board adopted a special use permit for a plan development for downtown Orland Park and the subdivision of the land. We did reduce the size of the Main Street Triangle TIF district and created the new downtown Orland Park TIF district. And we approved a redevelopment agreement between the Village of Orland Park and Edwards Realty. And that was basically what occurred regarding this tasks pertinent to this meeting for 2024.
Okay. Are there any questions? Okay. Are there any other overarching questions on the TIF? Are there any questions or from the public? Anybody here to ask any questions? Comment? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Signify by saying nay. Okay, we're adjourned.